Welcome to the Cow Emporium and Annette's calving meal prep video where I make more than 16 meals so that I'm not having hissy fit like Tinkerbell when it's supper time. In this video, I have prepped pork, chicken, and ground beef in various different ways. The meatball prep is super simple. I took some of my homegrown onions and garlic and added some ginger and some green onion, sesame oil, a couple of eggs, and about a half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. For the hamburger soup prep, it's pretty close to the same. I had my onions, garlic, carrots, some frozen tomatoes, Worcestershire, pearl barley, and a couple other things probably that I threw in there. Let's mix all the meatball ingredients together until it's well combined. These meatballs I formed were approximately just larger than the size of a golf ball. I browned some hamburger and I let the hamburger drain onto a plate to get rid of some of that fat that is not good for our heart. While I was cooking the meatballs and after draining the burger, I put it back in the frying pan with the onions and garlic. There it is, ready to cool and go into the bags. This is the pearl barley. You want to make sure that you rinse your pearl barley really well. Sometimes there's things in there that you don't want in your food because it comes from a bin, just like any other grain. Now that the meatballs are done, I took them off their baking sheet and I put them on a clean sheet and I stuck those in the freezer to freeze individually before packaging. A hot tip for meal prep with these Ziploc bags is to label your bag before you start filling it. Make sure that if you need to add anything to your bag or anything to your cooking when you're making it, that you write that on the outside of the bag. For example, with the hamburger soup, I wrote on the outside of the bag that I needed to add 6 cups of water. Here I am putting all the ingredients in the bag. I started with the hamburger, a little bit of beef oxo, some of that pearl barley, some celery and carrots. Remember that the onions and garlic are already in with the hamburger. I'm adding my frozen tomatoes with the skin on. These frozen tomatoes are so versatile to use, you guys. You try to get as much air out of that bag as possible, but because I'm going to be using these meals in the next month or so, I am not too worried about them freezer burning. Now to prepare my chicken breast, I have a cookie sheet where I've separated it in 3 different sections with tin foil. And I chopped up 7 chicken breasts, and to one of them I'm adding taco seasoning. And the middle batch, Italian seasoning, and Montreal steak spice. Don't judge me, it tastes good on chicken. After I carefully mixed all those spices in, and I know it looks like a lot of meat for those little sections, but it baked up nicely in a 375-degree Fahrenheit oven for 40 minutes, and at 30 minutes I took them out and ruffled them around. Now it's time to get some veggies ready, and if you're going to eat veggies, I think that you should reward yourself with some tasty cheese. That chicken is cooked. I just took it out of the oven to cool for a bit, and I portioned them into these Ziploc bags labeled "Those are cooked, ready to go." Now I am prepping some pork for some teriyaki pork and sweet and sour pork with vegetables. I found some peppers and frozen green onions in the freezer. I was pretty excited to be able to use those today. Into the bag of vegetables, I get everything ready. The veggies are ready for me to add the sauce to. I made up a quick teriyaki sauce and a sweet and sour sauce. I know this doesn't look traditional because I didn't have any food coloring. That's okay, it doesn't really need it. Here's my meals that I made. The cooked meatballs went into a bag. Now I'm preparing cabbage and barley soup. I know it sounds a little different, but it's delicious. That is some pork loin that I had left over, an onion, cabbage, which I just thinly sliced, sage leaves, thyme, and oregano are the seasonings for this recipe. Those are red split peas I added and the leftover pearl barley with some more of my frozen tomatoes. I cooked the pork and the onions first, and then I added in the rest of the ingredients and 6 cups of water. At this point, that's all I added to this recipe. I didn't want to oversalt this recipe, so we didn't add salt and pepper until we were ready to eat. It was surprisingly delicious. And a person shouldn't ever forget dessert. Might as well prep that too. So I prepped some chocolate chip cookies. And when making my chocolate chip cookies, I just used the recipe that's on the Chip It bag. These ones I'm going to freeze in the freezer, and I made 6 for fresh eating because we deserve a cookie after all this work. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 2 of meal prep coming up next week.